Oh my goodness. How's everybody doing? Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. Was taking care of a cat. Kitties rule. They do, they do. We got to take care of the cats and dogs in this world. Delicious. Good morning. What's everybody doing out there? Sorry, so rude. Always eating. Gotta take care of myself though, too. I don't have time for any of that this morning. So thanks for being here this special time. Last week I was traveling, flying home from Pride for Fighting gigs. And then this week I'm traveling on Sunday. Never fails. It's like Sunday's the travel day. Kind of funny. I always I don't know. It's weird. People book travel on Sundays a lot. I get a tinge of it's so stupid, but I get a tinge of I don't know if resentment is the word, but it's like, don't you know I do Sunday live on Sundays for 5 years every time somebody books travel on a Sunday? And then I'm like, of course they don't know. They're not it's not paramount in their mind when they're booking travel or whatever, but I'm always like, can't you just leave me this 2-hour window on Sunday mornings where I can be here with you dudes? But anyways, I do my best to keep it the same. But anyway, this is going to be a live stream to make up for last week not being here, for tomorrow not being here. Next Sunday should be back to normal scheduled time. I think that'll be the 8th or something, right? So Saturday the 1st, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th, something like that. So yeah, I'll just be here at Sunday live at the regular time, starting again next week. So how's everybody doing? What happened this week? Oh, I've almost got a video done for this pedal. This is a really cool pedal from Cornerstone in Italy. It's a fuzz. But they've done a neat thing with it. It kind of responds to the volume control on the guitar and dynamics like you would want a vintage fuzz to do, but without so many of the drawbacks of the impedance issues and stuff where you can't, use it with buffers and stuff. This pedal works quite well with a buffer. It doesn't sound exactly the same in all settings if you've got a buffered signal in front. So I'm talking about if you run a Boss tuner in front of it or something, or a buffer on your pedal board, or just any kind of buffered pedal or something's coming in front of it. There's always an issue with vintage fuzzes. It always totally screws up the way they sound. Big muffs and stuff, not really an issue, but fuzz faces, tone benders, the treble boosters, things like that, always susceptible to issues, right? So with this, what they've done is they've made the impedance as such that it works fine, but it's still quite responsive to the guitar volume control. So that's really cool. It's one of the first fuzzes I've ever tried that really sort of does a, germanium-ish thing with the volume on the guitar, but it can have a buffer in front. It's very interesting. Now, when I say it isn't exactly the same, there's this bias control on it here, and you can actually go between 2 different settings. So you've kind of got an A and a B fuzz with the same controls except for a separate bias for the A and B sides. When you crank up the bias, it gets sort of more healthy, louder, a little more bold, that kind of thing. Turn down the bias and you get some of those more kind of gated or spitty kind of sounds. So you can go anywhere in between. When you're in the kind of gated spitty thing, when that's going on, I found that it's a little more susceptible to the buffer. It'll sound louder if you put a buffered signal in front of it, and the volume doesn't quite work the same. The gated thing. I'll show you all of this in the video, but pretty good. It really is pretty good, and especially if you run the bias control up above noon, then it becomes less of an issue. So great option if you're looking for a fuzz. But you want a kind of a modern, pedal board, setup, modern pedal board setup, but a very vintage style fuzz sound, not even muffy, more like a really creamy fuzz face kind of, or tone bender or something kind of sound. That's kind of what it does. It's very nice. It sounds good. I like the track that I came up with for it. I might even put it up later today, or maybe I'll set it for release for tomorrow since I don't have a Sunday live tomorrow. So that's from Cornerstone in Italy, the Nero Fuzz. Let's just go down to the bottom of the chat here. And Earl's there. He says he's been using a Wampler Moffetta. Is that a MOSFET something or other? Killer pedal, highly recommended. Greatest clean boost, high gain with 3-band EQ. I haven't checked it out. I wonder if it's based on anything or if it's kind of different. Or Peter says Access guitar has the unbuffer pedal. It's very handy and works great. Does it work? Can you tell me if it works really transparently? Like how good is like how close does the pedal sound to not having a buffer? And does it do any kind of volume control stuff? Because probably not, is my guess. Most of the ones I've tried where you kind of you raise the impedance in front of a vintage fuzz with an unbuffer style circuit, it generally doesn't sound quite the same as when I've just got the guitar plugged right into the pedal coming first, no buffer in front of it or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I've had varying success with that stuff. There's a Mission volume pedal I have as well that has a switch on it that'll raise the impedance so that it's a buffered volume pedal, but you can turn on that switch and it raises the impedance enough to work with fuzzes. And anyways, a couple different devices out there that do that. But William says, have I ever plugged into any Splon amps? Not really. I don't have a real perspective on them, and I haven't really seen them around for a while. Are they still, is Splon still making a bunch of amps and stuff? Because I remember about 10, 15 years ago, they were really like kind of the, even, before Friedman and stuff, it seemed like Splon was a little bit ahead of that game on the modern, modded Marshall thing. But then others seemed to sort of take over, and I saw other names like Friedman and other companies kind of fill that gap. I remember Steve Stevens used to have one years ago, I think. But this is going back, like I say, like 15 years at least, I think. So My Knees Hurt says, can you tell us about the corporate gig you did in Canada? They asked us to not, actually. I don't know why, but it's just kind of something where they were like, yeah, I don't know. So it's just better for me to probably not say who the company was. But it was just a great big company that wanted a fun band for a party, basically. So yeah, but I mean, I can tell you about those things in general. Generally there's a giant, convention room or ballroom or something like that. And there's a dinner and maybe an awards ceremony and something like that, when these corporations get together and have these kind of events, nice dinner. And then they want to have some entertainment afterwards. And so it's generally not like a gig in that, you've only generally got maybe a couple hundred people there, or maybe 300 people maximum. I've even done corporates, with pretty big artists, and there'll be 50 people there. It'll be like a party. I've even done ones with, big artists, and like they'll get hired to play somebody's birthday or something. They'll have a sort of a surprise party maybe or something like that. And somebody's obviously got a lot of money because they can afford to hire these artists, and it'll be like, and our surprise guest is the artist you're playing with, and then they come walking out and it's like, wow. And I guess it's kind of a flex, like to impress all your friends or something like that. In the case of this one, I mean, they just wanted a fun rock band to play, and it went really well. It was great. So everybody seemed to have a good time. But I've done quite a few of those things over the years. Maybe you've heard about them, people like, oh, they hired, Beyonce or something to sing at, the Sultan of Brunei's something or other, I've got friends that have flown all the way to, the Middle East and things to do parties for these things, to perform at events, parties and events like this. And they'll literally fly over to do a 45-minute set or something and come all the way back. It's really super eco. When that happens. But anyways, all right. What else we got here? Let's see. Todd says, is this last weekend is just a wash? Last weekend was a wash. Yeah, I didn't get to it. I was super busy all week just doing stuff, and I was like, I gotta do a live stream. How am I going to do this? And I just thought I'll just do one this Saturday, and that'll kind of take us through the next couple weeks, and tomorrow I'll be on a plane. So does anyone have a good recommendation for an external SSD for storing my DOS sessions? I use little Samsung ones. If I had I could show you what they look like. I'll show you the ones that I use. I've got them right up here. Just a second. Where's it in here? Oh yeah, there's my bag of stuff. I'll show you what I use. I like Samsung. They've always been reliable for me, and they seem to work quite well. That said, I've got a couple others. Seagate and stuff. I think that's what these are. Oh, SanDisk. I can't comment on the reliability of these little guys, these little SanDisks, but this is a 2 terabyte, I think. I mean, they're really big drives for the size, you know. Seem okay so far. Most of my work has been done on these little guys, the little Samsungs. This is a T5, I think. They make a T5 and a T7. And you can get these in, you know, 500 gig or terabyte or even up to 2 terabytes these days, I think, maybe even bigger. I don't know. And they're really, really good, I find. So I would recommend them. SanDisk stuff seems good, though, too. I've been using these little SanDisk SD cards for my cameras and some Samsungs. I have some Samsungs that kind of look like that are like but anyways, Samsung I have had no problems with. Like, I can honestly say, knock on my desk, that been reliable and just, you know, super good over the years. So yeah. Okay, what else have we got here? You guys are talking about twisted telly pickups. Toby stole my car keys. That's not what happened this morning. No, but I did have to deal with, I'm moving Toby. Toby's got to have somebody watching him for the next little while because I got to run around, play some gigs and stuff, and that always creates an extra layer of interesting dynamic in my day. Let's see. Ebar says, market is flooded with so many decent low price guitars. I wonder if that pushes the cost of the high end instruments even higher. That's an interesting question. I have seen a lot of really good guitars around. The new Epiphone stuff, like, for example, their custom color Firebirds and stuff I've seen. Those guitars look great. And, you know, I haven't played them, but I think they're doing some interesting things these days with the kind of the midline stuff, you know. It seems like some pretty good deals, because as Gibson gets pushed sort of like more and more super expensive, it's like, you know what I mean? Like the Gibsons, like, geez, some Gibsons are like, what is going on with the, you know, guitars that are 10 grand and up kind of thing. I don't know. Cool guitars, but I went to the Gibson Garage in Nashville. It's great. It's fun to visit. And some beautiful instruments and stuff. But when I see guitars that are, you know what I'm talking about, the Murphy Lab stuff and everything, it's so expensive. It's just like, it just seems a little crazy to me. I don't know. God bless them if they can get that for it, though. I guess whatever, you know. What are you guys talking about? Tetanus in the you're talking about some interesting. I'm just looking through the chat here. I've got another video that I'm going to do for a pedal called the Mullet Drive. That's over there. I'm not going to get it right now, but I've got to do that coming up pretty soon here, as well as the Bigsby pedal. Been meaning to get to that for a long time. This is the Boostopia. Here's another one that we can talk about if you want. It's got 3 different boost settings. It's got a treble booster, sort of standard, it says, and then low, kind of a low boost. I would probably not use the low boost. That wouldn't be for me, but both the standard and the high have a really nice color. The standard doesn't even sound like it's uncolored, like just like a clean boost. It sounds like it's still got some color to it, and it still stays tight and everything. So pretty cool. And so video for that coming soon. Pretty nice. The nice folks have been waiting for a little while, and I appreciate their patience, because this is always busy these days, but as you all are, I'm sure, life's overwhelming at times. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Okay, I'm gonna move down the bottom of the chat and see what else we got going here. See what else you guys are talking about. And Steven says he's got a 20-year-old SLO. Don't use it live because of the loop, but I'm hesitant on modding it due to keeping it original. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I gotta tell you, I mean, I don't really think the new ones sound appreciably different. I think I've got one right here. I think it sounds pretty much exactly the same. Um, as the Transformers, I think are probably made by a different company, but I don't know, man. I mean, I think they sound really, really, really. At least the SLO 100 is. I don't really hear a difference. So, and I've directly AB'd, on an amp switcher. So why don't you sell your original for, get a bunch of money for it or something, and then buy a new one with the loop already done, make a little money probably because the old one's original, and get a new one that's already got the loop in it and just carry on. I don't know. That's what I think. So maybe that's just an option, either that or you get the loop done or updated. But then, yeah, maybe you are affecting the value. So maybe you make, like, if you're, kind of in a perfect world, I would say, maybe unloading the old one, unless it's got some sentimental value or something, and just, buy a new one. So, yeah. Lauren says if one has a buxom boost, what will another boost do that is different? Well, for example, this is a has 3 different frequency ranges, kind of. Most of the boosts, like if you want a really good boost, like I'm gonna do a video on this one and we'll compare and stuff. But I think like a Cocoa Boost, for example, is a great example of like you've got the clean boost side, and that's very kind of like a high-end micro amp. Does a really nice clean boost, just kicks just makes parts jump a little more, depending on how saturated your amp is. You're either going to get more saturation or volume and saturation, or maybe just volume if you've got lots of headroom out of a clean boost with all the frequencies equal. And then something like the mid boost in it more targets a certain frequency. It's got a curve to it, and it kind of kicks the amp in just the mids and stuff, and that tends to sound tighter because you're not boosting lows and stuff at the same time. So like in this pedal, it's got a three-way switch here, that for low, standard, or high. If you want the tightest sound, you go for the high boost, and that's going to be kind of more vicious and just boost in the treble frequencies. And in front of something like a Marshall or a Vox, that just it's like a solo thing, or tight dirty chords. Maybe you want distortion, but you don't want to use an overdrive pedal. You want to get it out of the amp. That tends to work really well. Standard boost also, like I say, has some color, but when I think of standard, I think, okay, that's more like clean boost. Like I say, like the clean boost side of a Cocoa Boost, or like a micro amp where it's all the frequencies pushing at once. You're just getting louder into the amp, just getting more. So I think a buxom has a gain control on it, right? It probably has a little bit of clipping in it. I don't really remember. I think I have one here somewhere, but it was always a good sounding boost pedal. Great in front of a dirty Marshall-y sound, By the way, I've got another one here I want to show you, because this is another fellow that's been waiting for a video forever, and it's just something that I haven't done yet. But this is this Eddie boost pedal, and this is from what the heck is the company? It's called Messiah Effects. And this is a great sounding overdrive with a built-in MOSFET boost. Really nice colored kind of boost. What a good sounding pedal. Really is. It's got a 3-band EQ in it. 2 different types of clipping, kind of like a harder or softer, I would say. I mean, the harder one it's still supposed to be a soft clipping pedal, like an overdrive, not a distortion. But I would say the harder sound, or what, it's LED, sorry, it's not hard or soft clipping, it's an LED clipping, or another type of, how you can get the, it's IC or LED or something. Different types of clipping is what it is. But one sounds like harder clip to me. Harder clip, by that I mean sounds more like a, harder edged, slightly, more like veering into amp style distortion. Whereas the other one sounds more like screamerish to me. That softer attack thing. I always these days tend to prefer the harder thing, because it just kind of keeps the pick attack and keeps it, real stringy. But it's still like warm sounding when you do that. And then you got the 3-band EQ to kind of really dial it in. Great sounding pedal, this one, the Eddie pedal from, and it's not supposed to be Eddie Van Halen. It's supposed to be somebody else, another guy named Eddie. But anyway, the Messiah pedal, MOSFET boosts, and overdrive pedal in one. That's really nice, and I've been meaning to make a video for that. These are all pedals I have sitting on my desk right now, including this. I don't know, it's boost pedal week, I guess, over here. This is that Boss booster that I just love this thing. It's great. All the Waza pedals, man, killer. Boss Waza pedals, really good sounding. Super nice. Any thoughts on the Roland ES8 pedal controller? I've never used one on a board yet, but they seem great, you know, and I know lots of people have used them. I mean, going back to 2018, I remember Ichiro, the other guitar player that does the Tyoshi Nagabuchi gig, when I was doing it in Japan, Ichiro used an ES8 for his pedal board. So, you know, I've done tours with guys with them and stuff, and they seem really good. I mean, you can reorder the pedals. It's like they're easy to get, you know. There's a lot of things to like about them. So, yeah. Black Glove says this is regards to corporate gigs. It's like a gig, but it pays a lot, and then nobody pays any attention to you. Well, they did at the they were going crazy, and actually the folks that were there said we do these kind of events a lot, and this is the most people we've ever seen totally engaged and into it. I mean, they were all out on a dance floor and in front of us, and it was like a show. It was great, even though there's only a couple hundred there, you know. So very cool. It was a lot of fun. I think sometimes, you know, like an artist that gets hired for corporate because they're a big name, you're kind of actually almost at a disadvantage in that, because not everybody's going to know your music or necessarily be a fan of you, where they might like one of your songs or maybe 3 of your songs, unless they're really, I mean, you know, I guess if it's, you know, Paul McCartney or Aerosmith or something, then it's like, okay, you know. But when you get a band that's essentially like the classic rock show, we do everything. So it's like, you know, there's something in there for everybody, and I think that makes a difference. You know, it's kind of geared towards that audience a little bit more. They're not fans of yours necessarily. They're there for an event, and they're just sort of, you know, some of them are probably country music fans or something. They're sort of stuck with what they get with you, you know, and so that I think it is probably more difficult for a lot of artists in that sense. But when you can do a little bit of everything, and you've just got a strong band of musicians and singers, and you can kind of, you know, play to everybody, and be like, oh man, I loved it when you played that song, and somebody else will like another song, and somebody, you know, so it works really well in that format. Actually, I think people end up kind of having, at the end of the day, the whole, you know, covers thing, or doing the show like classic rock show, or you know, people are fans of artists for sure, but they're also equally, I would say, fans of songs. And this is the whole, you know, why cover bands were sort of, you know, I watched a band last night. I was out last night in Pasadena for a minute, and there was a band playing at the what the heck's that place called? The Kings Row Pub. And they were a cover band. And they seem to hire a lot of bands out there locally, kind of from the San Gabriel Valley area. And they had a big crowd in there watching them. Like, I don't know how many people were their friends or fans of theirs, or how many people were just there. But there's a lot of Hispanic folks, obviously, in the San Gabriel Valley. And Morrissey and the Smiths are really, really big in that world, you know. And so this band started playing Smiths and Morrissey songs, and everybody was in there singing and just having such a good time, you know. And it was really cool, and they sounded really good, I thought. And it was just neat to see. And I guess my point just being, like, I was watching this guy with his eyes closed. He even had a Smiths shirt on. There weren't a Smiths cover band, but like, we're gonna play some Morrissey and the Smiths, and this guy went crazy, and he was singing every word. And you know, there's fans of music. We're fans of music at the end of the day. So it's an interesting discussion, because it's like, you know, the songs can really kind of take over. And I've found, at least in doing these gigs, that people sometimes almost, I don't want to say I'm always a fan of original artists doing things, obviously, but when you're just having fun, you're hearing a great song and singing along and stuff like that. You can almost have just as good of a time, you know, with somebody playing a cover, I guess is my point. Depends on the artist, I guess, depends on the fans. But it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting discussion, I think. Sting does a ton of them corporate gigs. Yeah, I mean, there's so, it's hard to tour. Here's the other thing to know: it's hard to tour these days and make money, right? It's expensive, flying around, trucking gear around, doing everything. And these corporate gigs, because there's a lot of money in corporations, obviously, they can end up shoring up your tour. I mean, if you're losing money, I mean, and you do like one or two corporates kind of around that, it can end up actually like making the whole thing like a win as opposed to a wash. You've already got all your gear out there. You're geared up for the tour. You're rehearsed, so it's no big deal to just go into a room and do the gig. It's not like you know what I mean. And if you can kind of do it in conjunction with the tour and not have to put the whole thing together, you know what I'm saying. It can really make sense. So for somebody like Sting, it's like just kind of works, so to probably help shore up some dough and stuff like that. Okay. David says, recently purchased Quad Cortex and captured the 3 channels on my PT15. First foray into modelers. Any tips on fine-tuning the sounds using a power stage into a SIR cabinet? No, I mean, not really. Just kind of like going back and forth with the amp and then listening, maybe making subtle tweaks I'm not afraid to, in the Quad Cortex models, to drop the gain or raise the bass or the treble or whatever a little bit if I feel like it kind of helps. I mean, Seymour Duncan power stage, is that what you're using? I find them to be pretty good, those power amps. I've been cutting the presence on mine a little bit because I find they're just a little hard sounding, I find, when I use them compared to, say, my Matrix power amp that I've used for a number of years. It could be the type of speakers. Like, I always specify I want a Marshall 1960 AV or BV cabinet for vintage 30s. And what always shows up on a 1960 A or B with 75 watt Celestions? It's like 90% of the time I don't get the cabinet I specified. It's like, I didn't say that one, I said this one. It's coming from a backline company. They probably have them, but nobody double checks. And so I just like, whatever, who cares? It's my onstage cabinet that I use when I fly, and I'm using a quad Cortex rig. The Quad Cortex is feeding the PA anyway, so it's not what's in the house. It's just my onstage monitoring. So if I get an old Marshall cabinet with the run-of-the-mill 75 watt Celestions, whatever. It's just so that I can monitor some guitar on stage, maybe get a little feedback. That said, I notice when I use that cabinet with the power stage that what I don't like about it is that they have this sort of like grating distortion on the top end compared with what I've been using when I can take my Matrix power amp and a couple of 112s. I'll take a couple of 112s with a V30 in one and this Grey Wolf speaker in the other one, and that sounds very smooth and just it's got clarity, and it's also smooth, the breakup. I really like it. Just my onstage monitoring cabs. They're not mic'd or anything, But when fed with the power station or 2 power stations in stereo, that's what I've been doing, because I don't have the stereo one. I just have the mono ones. I'll throw those in my Pelican case or whatever, take them with, and the 2 power stations feed the rented Marshall run-of-the-mill cabinet. I always find it's a little grating on the top end, the distortion, and so I've been dialing the presence back. That's one thing, using on the power stage. So turning it down to like 10:30 or 11 o'clock on the little 5-band EQ or whatever it is, 4 or 5 band. Your mileage may vary. I've been turning up the bass a hair, turning down the presence a little bit, and that seems to sound better to me. So try that maybe. But how much do you think Sting charges to play at a backyard party? I mean, $500,000, maybe $1 million, something like that. Probably, for a 75-minute set, something like that is probably what he charges. I would say, I would guess somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. That's my guess. And it depends, but that's a wild guess, but there you go. Marshall Group says amps made just 5% of revenue last year, reveals push for digital amps going forward. Do you have a take on this? Well, I mean, they'd be crazy for the amps to go away, because that's I get like the branding of the Marshall, it's a brand and that logo is iconic. I was talking to my friend Brian last night about this. He's got one of the Marshall Bluetooth speakers, and he says music, just like rock music, just sounds better coming out of that thing. It's like if you listen to some Bad Company or something, it just sounds good. Like And they went into it's a much bigger market, than the guitar amplifier market. The you know consumer electronic speakers and Bluetooth speakers and all that. Everybody's got one of those these days. Not everybody's got need for a guitar amp. So I understand it, and yeah, it makes sense to me that amps are become a smaller. But I would argue it'd be better to try and win some of those. Like, they're doing some cool things. That amp that's back there in the corner is cool. That little SV, or what's it called, JTM 20. That's a little JTM 45 21. That little guy sounds great, and they did a great job on the cosmetics of it. It's a cool little amp, And the SV series, they're obviously still making things that are attractive to guitar players, and doing a pretty good job. I would go a little further with it, to be honest, because what you're seeing folks like Sir and Friedman do, with SL67s and 68s, and Friedman with his Plex and stuff, good master volumes, and just, usable new features, but keeping it simple. Like, why not be doing that? Just don't, if you can't beat them, join them. Make amps that are, you're seeing those companies do those things, and that's just kind of what Marshall should still be doing, I think. I mean, why they don't make a hand wired little 50, a 50 watt, 72 JMP style. They make it in 1987, but it's kind of, it's PC board stuff. It's good sounding amp and everything, really cool. But they already made their hand wired 1959. Why not release a hand wired? I think they did it JTM 45 too, right? Amps like that, like, just do more of that stuff. But why not like a turret board, 50 watt with a nice post phase inverter master, just with the channels linked or something. Little features that just make it, usable. They'd probably sell a bunch of them. I don't know. I think so. It's odd to me, but it's a corporation once again, and it's owned by whoever it's owned by. Marshall Group, like you say, it's like, and so there's a lot of, it's trying to get anything done and do things that sometimes that makes sense is sometimes difficult. Speaking of corporations, Steve says, I see Sir is now being sold at Guitar Center. Yeah, my PT 100 video is up now on, that I did with Guitar Center, is up now on the interwebs, on the Guitar Center website. It's done quite well, actually. And I think it turned out really good. Some people said this is the best demo of the PT 100, which, is an older amp now. I mean, it came out at least the current Sir version came out 2013 or 14. So it's 10 years old, but it's still a fantastic sounding amplifier, and you can hear it in that video. There's a PT 15 video coming out probably early next week as well that I did with them. And yeah, they've got, it's not in every store, I don't think. I mean, for instance, they're in the Platinum Room in LA, here in Hollywood. You can find my amps and Sir guitars and stuff. Yeah. So I'm happy about that. Just more places to play the amps, It used to be hard to find a place in LA to play my amp. We kind of had to go down to San Diego, actually, I think, to Pitbull. But now we've got dealers. There's one out in Thousand Oaks, and there's the Guitar Center Hollywood, and there's, more places. So it's good. Braxall says, thanks for the recommendation of SSDs. Yeah, I've always had good success with those Samsungs, so I would go that way. Dr. M says, Epiphone crappy. I don't think so. I think these new Epiphones are, I'll give you an example of the one that, my tech Bernie that's been doing Classic Rock Show, he got one. And he says it's really good. And I know they've been doing some new, like, I don't know if they're made in USA or they're custom shop or what they are, but there's new custom color versions. Like, what's this one called? The 1963 Firebird in Inverness green. There it is. Like, here's another one. They're $12.99. These guitars look beautiful. And, you can just get a Gibson truss rod cover for it, and then it says Gibson on it. Right? Here's another one. Yeah, they make them in, like, what is it called? Cardinal red. And I'm just looking at the, I'll just give you an example here of, I don't know any, I mean, I might actually have a chance to play one of these soon, and then I'll tell you what I actually think of it. But I've heard good things about these new, much in the way, I mean, like EVH guitars, plenty of them are made in Mexico and stuff, and it's like they're good, Here's a big old link. I don't know how that's going to show up when I post it here. Let's see. I don't know. I just posted it, but take a look at that. Like, that's a good looking guitar. Got to check it out. Stephen Douglas says, "Sir, was always sold at GC." Well, no, not always, but they, but maybe 2-3 years ago. The time passes like crazy now, and you know how it is with the, I don't have awareness, but I think it's been maybe 3 years tops that you've been able to get like PT 15 and 100 and stuff at Guitar Center. So it's not always, but recently. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. What else we got here? Black Glove says Epiphone saying tune better than Gibson's a lot of the time. They got the neck break angle right. That's interesting. How does the top hat Implexidor compare to real deal old Marshalls? It's pretty good, man. Implexidor is a great amp. It's built right. Brian's just a really smart amp guy. I've compared it directly with old, 50s and stuff, and it's right there. I mean, it sounds really good. You've got your switchable kind of bright cap option on there that you can have or not. And I always kind of liked it on because you know how I am with that stuff. I like the little more aggressive thing. But it's got a sort of a JTM 45. I don't know how much, like in the JTM 45 mode, how much it actually switches. Like if it's the whole tone stack or the different values and things in these amps. But it's supposed to be able to take you from kind of a 45 sound to a plexi sound, and then it's got a modern master volume on it, or modern, maybe not so modern, maybe like it's not a post phase inverter master. It's a, more like the typical JCM 800 style master. But when you crank that way up, like I'd usually turn that, 3/4 the way up at least, and then kind of use the gain as the volume. And the EQ basically then responds like my 50-watt Marshall that's up there, the old one on top. Good amp. I mean, really, they were great. They're kind of inexpensive for what they are. It's a great boutique amp. Really made well. I bought mine at Guitar Center in the early 90s. Excuse me, no, late 97, 98, something like that. I bought my Implexidor. Maybe it was 2000. Maybe it was 99. I don't know. I was looking for a plexi around the millennium, turn of the century. And I couldn't find one and they weren't expensive back then either. I mean, there was, you could find early 70s, for example, for pretty reasonable price. But the top hat I got for like, I don't know, $700 or $800 or something, which seemed like a pretty good price at the time to me. Marshall might have cost me $1,200 back then, like a 70 or 71 or something. They weren't that much in like 2000, but I thought, I got a great deal on this top hat. In retrospect, I mean, yeah, it would have been really cool to just buy a 68 plexi back then for what they were going for. But the top hat's still in my amp collection, so it's good. Sorry, I missed the super chat here. It was a $20 one. Hey, thank you very much, Langer1234. Appreciate that. Fun fact, back in the 90s, I worked on real-time data compression software. SunDisk approached us to increase the capacity of their solid-state full slot cards for PCs using compression. That company later renamed to SanDisk. I remember when they were called the other thing. Well, thank you for the super chat there, and thanks for watching and being a part of the show. Appreciate it. Here's on that note of amps that were in the 90s or early 2000s, not too expensive. A pristine 92 SLO bought around 96 for $1,600. Sounds like a good deal. Yep. Stephen talking about the SLO, about what to do, sell it, keep it, mod it. Yeah, I would probably sell it. Now's the time for big old, tube amps and stuff. I think if you can get, they seem like they're kind of at I don't know, they might still keep going up or being more expensive or whatever, but maybe not. I don't know. And I think if you got a fair price for it now and then just kind of got a new one, or maybe a used new one that's like a year or two old, pretty cool. You might end up walking away with $1,000 or something and have the amp with the loop that you want. Who a very, 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 very similar sound. Steven also says all brick and mortar stores are headed the way of Sam Ash. Well, I don't think all. I think if you target it and do it right, like for example, a store like In Stuff in they're such a sort of pillar of the community, you know, and they have a live venue there where they put on shows, and it's just like it's ingrained in the community there. Everybody knows that's an amazing store, you know, if you're from that area. This is Pittsburgh. I'll use them as an example. Up in Canada, where I'm from, I always go to Stang, which is nice. My friend up in Edmonton owns it, and I always stop in there. I just saw him a couple weeks ago. Went in and said hi to everybody. That store, you know, they're doing really good, I think. If you know what the key is, you have to, if you're going to have brick and mortar store, you have to have a healthy online business too, I think. You know, because I think these stores that we see, like for example, vintage shops like Norm's or Emerald City Guitars in Seattle, always posting guitars every day. Hey, look what we got in, you know, we got a, you know, it's a 59 Les Paul or it's a 59 Junior or whatever, and it's beautiful, and they'll post a picture of it. I'm pretty sure those guitars go like quick. If you invest in good photography and, you know, you build that online presence and stuff like that, and you're set up to do sales, you know, over the net, you can sell anywhere in the world. You know, your brick and mortar store just becomes a showroom and a warehouse, you know, and you can, and so that's really the key is like, and then also making it, you know, like a cool destination and stuff where people, you know, when they come into town, they're going to want to go there. Like if I go to Seattle, I want to go to Emerald City just because I see them on Instagram every day, and I'm like, oh, I gotta stop in there next time. Or, you know, Chicago music, or like, these stores are really doing it right. They're thinking about it and they're making it a destination. It's not just a place to, if it's just a place to go buy things, and it's like you can get those things on Amazon, you know, then or you know, through Sweetwater easily and have it show up your door. Well, sure, you know, but you like kind of can't get that experience of like, you know, playing a ton of vintage guitars or a ton of custom shop whatever in the same place that's really curated and in a cool environment and all that stuff. And so I think that's why, you know, Center and stuff, you know, when they create the platinum rooms and stuff, I mean, you know, they're trying to make it. I mean, when you heard about the new CEO coming at Guitar Center, some people criticize the statement he made, but he was saying basically like, when I go in, there's nothing I would want to play in here as a guitar. Like I want to, he was saying we want to cater to more like upper end guitar crowd a little bit, get back into that, not just have walls full of $500 guitars or whatever. I get it. I mean, it's like, I understand what he's saying. He's like trying to do that. He's trying to make it a bit more of a destination when you've got a platinum room, like really make it cool, you know? I don't know. It kind of makes sense to me. I think Guitar Center is, you know, they've got a lot of brick and mortar, obviously, right? And so it's like you got to now go, well, we're not going to, like, I guess they could change that model, but it's like in order to kind of compete in a world of online, you know, sales and stuff, if maybe they already do this, but if it was me, I would just get rid of the whole, you know, musician's friend, like whatever. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but like everything should be integrated with Guitar Center. Maybe it already is, but I'm not sure it's not. But you know what I mean? Like with inventory and just super high tech. Like if it's like, hey, somebody's bought something online on our Guitar Center website from, you know, Bellingham or whatever, and there's one in Seattle Guitar Center, we're going to ship from there and they're going to have it like tomorrow afternoon kind of thing, because it's right, you know, like that kind of integration, like use that brick and mortar you know, sort of network and everything in order to get, you know, like and just go into the online thing whole hog, and also make the destination somewhere where people want to come, where it's not just kind of a you know, I've been in Guitar Centers, you know, to be honest, I mean, just being honest, I've been in Guitar Centers where it's like, I was in one a couple of years ago, broke a speaker cable on stage at a tour, and, you know, we didn't really have a spare, which was dumb, but so I had to go to Guitar Center that day and get a new speaker cable. The only speaker cable in that store was 50 feet long. It was like a, you know, for like a PA speaker, it was like, you guys don't have any like 10-foot or 5-foot cables for like people with heads and cabinets, because that's still out there. I mean, you know, guitar players and bass players with heads and cabinets, they didn't have any. They had a 50-foot speaker cable, and the store was just like, it was a bit of a merchandising disaster and stuff, with just stuff all over the place. And it was like, oh man. And then I've been in Guitar Centers, recently was in one Maybe it was it Virginia, or I can't remember, but it was on a tour stop, a classic rock show tour stop, where we were kind of, outside of a major city somewhere, or, staying in a hotel on the side of a freeway, but there was a lot of shopping out there and stuff. And there was a Guitar Center. So we went in for a minute. This store was like, although they didn't have a ton of like the high end boutique stuff, or like, like custom shop vendor or something, it was inventory and merchandising was beautiful. It was so good. And I told the guy there, I was like, man, you guys have done a really nice job on the store. Like, it looks, he's like, thanks. The guy was obviously proud of it. And he said, we've put a lot of time and effort in, and I really like him, on top of that. So it just depends, if it's a destination that you want to go to, it's helpful. So blah, 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 blah. I did hear the thing about Manny's maybe getting, the name Manny's was purchased by the people that own Harmony and Mono Bags. And I was wondering what's happening with that. Like, are they going to put a Manny's in back on 48th Street or something and try and, I mean, probably not, right? But maybe somewhere, I don't know. So it'd be kind of neat if there was a Manny's, and if they did it right, because other people were saying, oh, what's the point? It's not, the people that started the original uh, aren't there anymore. It's not the same without them. But if you pay respect to the name by trying to make a destination that people will want to go to, and kind of push Manny's, the name, into the future, as kind of I think that's really cool. Could be great, could be not great. It just depends how you do it. So at the end of the day, I still remember driving on my bike on Saturday afternoons to the local music stores in Edmonton, and going to Mother's Music, and going to, Lilo's, which was crazy for any Edmontonians out there that remember. It's a funny scene. Hey, great, with Vic Lilo in the back. Great. Funny cat. It's finally gone. I think they closed that store, but it was there forever. But going to Mother's and going down there and playing guitars, and just I loved it. I loved going in the shop and trying things, and I spent a lot of money in those stores, and it was just there's nothing like going to a place where you can put it in your hands, and I don't know how that doesn't really change. I don't think with. I mean, I still like going to Best Buy if I'm looking for a TV and actually looking at them and seeing what the picture looks like. Oh, this one looks amazing, compared to, even though you can buy the thing on Amazon. So there's still a thing to go into places and looking for things that, if it's done right. All right, I'm so long-winded on this subject. Sorry. Ran my SL68 Mark II, says Rick, without a load. Blew a fuse after replacing the fuse, and now it's humming extremely loud. Do you think I burnt out output transformer or caused internal damage? It's hard to say. You're going to want to get it looked at by a tech, because you're going to, at the very least, you might have, I mean, it could be a thing like where you arc the tube socket or something. The fuse is there. They generally will blow pretty early. The HT fuse and stuff to kind of protect. But humming, yeah, I don't. You're going to want to get it looked at. I think that you're going to be fine no matter what. I mean, the good thing about one of those amps is everything's fixable, so whether or not it's under warranty with having done it like that is another story, but you'll get it fixed and it'll be fine. So could just be like, power tube that got toasted or something like that, but now isn't weird enough to be blowing the fuse again, or something, so you're going to want to get it looked at. Just take it to somebody you trust. And the other good thing about it is they're easy to work on, and a good tech that knows how to work on a Marshall will be able to look at it and figure out what's going on. So sorry to hear that, though, but we've all done it. I mean, occasionally speaker cable comes just unplugged a little bit or whatever. And you're like, why is it not working? You hear the amp, and then poof! I blew a fuse on mine once a while ago, actually on my old Marshall, hitting it with a fuzz pedal in front, and that's like a lot of input, going into the amp, and the speaker cable wasn't plugged in, and I blew a fuse, and luckily nothing was toasted. It happens. Have you ever tried the EVH Relic guitar? It feels so comfortable. Are you talking about the like his tour one? Is that the one? Like the Wolfgang Relics? I haven't tried one of those, but yeah. Let's see here. Is your Germino amp capture for Tone X that you played on your Tone X1 available for purchase. Not yet, but it will be. I just have to finish doing some stuff with that, and I need a couple weeks at home where I can just not be going somewhere and doing gigs and stuff, and I can put some time into that and finishing up my little Tonex, because I'm going to make that one available, as well as some of my other amps, recaptures in my old Marshall and the Germino and other things. So soon, yeah. Stay tuned. Is a compound gauge string possible? Something like 13s on picking side, tapering down to like 10s. No, I don't think so. I know what you're saying, but that sounds impossible to me. I mean, I don't know for sure, but that doesn't sound like something possible. You like the feel of picking on the heavy strings, but like lighter on the fretboard. No, I mean, it was weird if you had like a string that like right at the end of the fingerboard went to a different gauge. Sounds difficult. But if I understand you correctly, anyways, it must be kind of hard for Marshall because so many companies are doing way better job. Yeah, I mean, if you take resources away from any one thing, you move amp resources over to, or whatever, our budget's gonna focus on, this Bluetooth speakers or headphones or whatever. I mean, it is a way bigger. I'm sure they're making money, off those things, because it's a brand, and it's Marshall headphones. That's just cool, I guess, but anyways. Todd says, I watch Peach Guitars and they love your guitars there. The Peach is a great shop. It's a wonderful store, one of the best in the UK for sure. Talk about a destination, they've really done it right. So please say hi to those guys for me if you, or, I guess you don't live there. You're just saying you're watching their channel, but they always do good video content and stuff like that too, and represent our, Sir products and my guitars and everything really well. So I appreciate that. And, what gear would you use to get Van Halen one tone for under 6K-ish? I mean, I would just get a good Strat style guitar with the right pickup. You can watch my whole pickup thing and see which one you would want to put in it, with a Floyd Rose. And I know Van Halen one wasn't a Floyd Rose, but make it easy on yourself and just get a Floyd Rose, because staying in tune with the traditional bridge is a pain. Probably an SL68 and something like that, or Dave's Plex or something like that. And I can't stress enough that I really like using something like the Power Station, Fryette, to load the amp and then reamp it at any volume. And you've also then got the added advantage of an effect loop. So if you wanted to add kind of a, plate or chamber style verb to the sound, you could get that, run a Echoplex, a Phase 90, and EVH flanger in front. If you want, get something like this. If you feel like you just want to goose the front end a little bit, whether or not he did, doesn't really matter. Just a little something to fine tune the gain. That's it, and then it's just practice, getting it in your hands. That's the most important thing. Is the amps and the stuff is all available now, and everybody knows kind of how he did it. And I was talking about Van Halen tone yesterday and how different all the albums are with Jamie Kime. We were talking about how he really loves Women and Children First tone. It's not my favorite, but I like Fair Warning a lot. Women and Children First is cool. To me, it sounds just like he loves it. To me, it sounds a little like Rushed. The sound on that record, a little more than Fair Warning, which sounds more like darker and fatter. And I think he was using a heavier or a higher output pickup by then. Maybe it just sounds like a JB on Fair Warning. But anyways, yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. Talking about Tellys and Esquires in the chat. Raxall is waiting on his guitar. The wait is long on when it's just his with the Sirs, just because they've got a lot of guitars to make. But is what it is. It'll be coming your way. I know you've already I mean, talk about a soft release. We've been talking about it for weeks. It'll be officially on a website and stuff like that within a few weeks. So the specs, and you'll be able to see, photos of it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just kind of like, I don't know. The guitar was a great, like, I love kind of the way that we did the PT100, the SL68, and I guess this version of the guitar, kind of just something where I went, I want this. And they went, okay, we'll make that for you. And then I did it. And then it seems like, oh, it's a no-brainer. We should just offer it. Rather than a traditional kind of, product build-up, release, all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit of more like an organic, oh, there's something they did for me and people seem to like it. So maybe we should make some. That was really how the PT100 started. And there's something about it that feels non-hypey to me, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. It's just like, oh, here's this thing. Check this out. Oh, it's cool. And people are like, can I get one of those? It's like, I don't know. Maybe we should think about that. And then like, yeah, I guess so. There's something that feels very like, yeah, non-hypey. Kind of neat. Totally not like the traditional way to do things. But here's some super chats. Thanks, you guys, for these. Have you played the new Wolfgang SA126? No, I haven't, but it looks really cool. I hear it's doing really well, and that's great. That's really good. Yeah. Eden says, what a surprise. Yeah, nice to. I didn't really post anything other than the watch page yesterday about this. I didn't post anything on YouTube, but I did on Instagram and stuff, and just kind of let people know I'd be doing this. I figure people can watch it later or listen in if they want later. And at least it's something for the week, because I can't be here tomorrow, and I couldn't be here last Sunday just on flights. Damn airplanes, Delta Airlines and American Airlines, et cetera, et cetera. Quality problems. It's good to have work. Yeah. Oceanside Music Store, somebody's saying, in Southern California. I've never been there. Is it cool? In Oceanside, obviously. I'll have to check it out. I haven't heard of it. Peter says, I've just found an amp tech who looks legit, and he has my Runt 50 as we speak. Cool. It's good thing to have, a good amp tech. I'm going to catch those super chats here in just a second. Rob says a compound string would never intonate properly. You need a constant diameter and wind tension throughout the string length. Totally makes sense to me. Anytime I've had a string, sometimes I used to have D strings from a certain company where the string would actually like vibrate where it sounded out of tune with itself. And that was described to me as, oh, the core has slipped through the wind. Sort of the integrity of the string has been compromised, I guess. I mean, it wouldn't vibrate right anymore. And that sort of makes sense to me as being like a, oh, okay. It's not. So it would seem to me that would be the case with a compound gauge. Because I believe what the fellow asking about compound gauge is talking about is like, could a string be a 10 for half of its length and a 12 for the rest? I don't think so. Righty. Let's see. John says, Brother Pete, I just ordered SL68 Mark II. Cool. Is the post-phase inverter master good enough to run the amp at low volumes? Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's not exactly the same as the amp is loud, but it's really, really good. So, I mean, playable, and, you make small tweaks on the EQ. But it's got a great feel to it, and it really feels like the amp is loud and stuff. So, it's cool. I think you'll like it. Whether or not you want to also get, I mean, the power station adds another level of flexibility because there's a loop, and you can it's exactly the same sound to me at just about any volume level. Michael, what's up, dude? How are you? Thanks for the super chat. Do you like a treble bleed on your humbucker? I do, generally. The Sir standard, it's a certain combo of cap and resistor, and I love it. Sounds just great. So, yeah, that's something to check out. Whatever they use, their values. I just find it's very even all the way down, and Generally speaking, I like to have that. I don't like it when you turn it from 10 to 9 and it gets dark all of a sudden, you know. I guess I don't use them on a Gibson, you know, with 50s wiring, or, you know, it seems like they don't need them really, for whatever reason. Um, on all my, you know, SIRS, I've got that, except for the Aura. Yeah. Okay. Good to see you, Michael. What else we got here? Steven says, Pete likes treble bleeds, but Dave Friedman doesn't. I'm not sure if Dave doesn't like them on anything, you know, but I do. I like them. Peter says, hate treble bleeds. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, if it's done right, I mean, have you guys tried the SIR values? Because to me, it's great. It's just even all the way down. Maybe you hear a different thing, but I don't know. Just like, is it just the cap or whatever? That won't work. It'll get weird if you turn it down. It sounds too bright. But if you use the combination of cap resistor, it's like kind of, you know, I don't know the science behind it, but it sounds more even to me. Always. Yep. Yeah, Michael, seek it out, like whatever they're doing, and give it a try, you know. And I think it's perfect. You know, I honestly do. All right, what else are we going to talk about here today? We got anything to show you that's interesting? Not really. I'll wait for another question from somebody or comment or something. But oh, I know what I've got to do. This is the other thing that I've got to do. TC2290. Has anybody tried one of these? This is kind of flown under the radar, and they've been waiting for a video from me on this for quite some time, and it's like, I've got to get it done. But Friedman said it's awesome. I've had it here for a while. I just haven't had a chance to get into it, but I'm going to do something with it. And so that, anyway, cool pedal, says Dave. He knows his stuff. So I hear they did it right. So we got to give it a go and see what it's all about. Yep. Steve Vai has a story about coming home after a night of excess. He made himself a tuna sandwich that tasted funny. Next morning, he saw it was cat food. Well, if it's good enough for Toby, then it's good enough for me. No, I don't eat cat food. I think I've eaten dog food. When you're a kid, you know, it's one of those things you dare people to do, take a spoon of dog food. I think I did do that. And I was like, it's not really that bad. That was my memory of it. But anyways, yeah. All right. Somebody says, aren't they like $2,000? What are you guys talking about? Which gear is $2,000? Do I think the SIR will take around 12 months to complete? Trying to plan for my next payment. You got to ask your dealer, because they have a timeline where they can tell you. You know, if they do the research and they put in a request, they can know almost exactly when they're going to get it, I think. So that's what I would do. But I'm not sure. I can't. I'm not the company, you know, so I can't say for sure. I'm sorry. I wish I could give you a more detailed answer, but you're probably not far off, I would say. You know, it's probably about something like that, you know. Maybe not quite that long, but I don't know. Yeah. We thinking about maybe getting a haircut? Don't be jealous, dude. Mr. Beckley. I don't think so, man. I'm just gonna let it go. I mean, it's still there. Look at it. Come on. If it's still around, then I'm happy. Let's see. Acoustic Guy says, I ordered your SIG in black as soon as it was available. First run, as far as I know. Great guitar. Oh, so it's a double humbucker one? Or the new kind of hum single one? I wonder. I'm glad you like it. I still love the originals. I mean, I play my red one here quite a bit, the 2 humbucker one. It's super fun. So, any Quad Cortex love lately? Well, yeah, I've been using it on the 5 for Fighting uh, tour or whatever we've been doing. We did 3 dates in a row. That was kind of a mini tour, I guess, a little run. I've got another date with them coming up next week, and I'm using it on that. So I've got a quad Cortex on a what's the board? The Temple board that weighs like 3 pounds. It's awesome. 24 width board, and then I've also got a treble booster on there, Cocoa Boost, and my Sir wireless receiver for the little GLX-D plus 16D, whatever it's called. And I even just use that with a cable a lot of the time and use it as a tuner and mute. And that little board's great, you know, so it's awesome. Yeah, quad is awesome. Great product. Yeah. Right. What else? My wife finally gave up trying to get me to cut my hair, says Tone Dragon. Yeah. When I was a kid, my parents were 50s people, really, you know, and they were kind of very conservative. And so they wouldn't let me grow my hair until I left home. It was like, it was getting stupid. It was getting to the point where I was getting very, you know, where you're 17 and you're like, it's like, if you live in my house, you can't have long hair sort of vibe. It was that. I mean, hard to imagine that now, right? But in the 80s, that was like, you know, with 50s parents, it was kind of still a thing. But I was getting so pissed off by that point. And so when I left and I moved to LA, because that was my next move, out of the house, moved to LA, I let it grow for 3 years, and I had hair. I looked like Anthony Kiedis in the 90s. I really did. I mean, I had hair like halfway down my back. And so I would just go home and be like, hey, no middle ground. This is what you get now, you know, because I was still pissed about it, I guess. But anyways, so I had really long hair until the 97 or so, and then I cut it all off. Or not all, but, you know, I cut it to here, and that was short for me. So this is probably the longest it's been since 2012 or something. And I'm going to let it go longer so that it's the longest it's been since the 90s, basically. Why not? Just have some fun, I figure. You only live once. Like I say, I didn't get up and leave, so. All right. You mentioned before you don't have a manager for your band. Well, I don't really have a band, but I think most touring bands don't make money because the manager, booking agent, promoter all take a large percentage of the gross. I mean, so which band? Like, you know, it depends on the gig, you know. This is the way things are structured, or gigs, you know. I'm basically a sideman. I'm still a sideman. I mean, even touring with the Classic Rock Show band, you know, I get hired and I've got basically a salary, and that I'm paid, that we agreed upon. And then I don't have anything to do with any of the, oh, we lost money on this gig, we made money on that gig. I don't know any of that stuff. And you know, that's kind of been my life. You know, I've never been ever in a situation where I was on the hook or potentially could make tons of money or whatever. It was always a salaried situation for me. So yeah. Yeah. This is interesting. What do you know about Ty Tabor's Egnator module Gretchen? I don't, actually. I didn't even really know that exists. Is that something that they made for the M4? I can look it up right now. I didn't even know they'd done that. I mean, that's pretty cool and kind of under the radar. I'm gonna look it up. Egnator. Kind of interesting. Oh, interesting. He had 2 modules way back in 2008. I didn't even know that. That's crazy because I had one. It was so under the radar that I didn't even realize. Oh, very interesting. Man, Ty doesn't get his, you know, due credit. It's like kind of wild. I'm seeing stuff on a forum all the way from 2008 talking about it. So I don't even know if I mean, that might be a hard thing to find now. I have no idea. I mean, now he's using orange amps, you know, so, and he's got a great sound live with the orange solid state amp. I think it's in his hands, man. I mean, he definitely knows how to dial in a sound, you know, Ty, to get his sound out of a lot of different things, it seems like, but that was a pretty unique, you know. I've got the L amp here, the L5 or whatever it's called, the his original. Got one of those. I think it's a lot of a combination of the guitar though too, because I think you've got to have that preamp. Uh, in the single coils, they were an Alnico 2 single coil, and then with the preamp circuit that was kind of the precursor to whatever ended up in the Clapton model, and that Fender preamp with the boost and everything he used to use. It was a very distinct thing, and kicking that into the front of this strange solid state amp, and then adding a graphic EQ to carve it out, and certain effects and things. It was a kind of a complicated sound with unusual gear. So yeah. Mark's talking about treble bleeds here. Pete's first Sig and Mateus Asados have treble bleeds. Yeah, it's most SIRs come with a treble bleed, and this is very natural. It's not like, oh wow, obvious treble bleed. It's just sounds very natural when you turn the volume on the guitar down. It sounds even. So I never even really think about it, to be honest. Yeah. Looking through the chat here. Looking through the chat. What's the best way to order a custom SIR if there's no dealers in your area? Well, I would call somebody like Humbucker or Wildwood, or like I say, In Stuff, and all these stores should be able to, to get you what you want. And if you want to order something custom, you can do it probably over the internet, over email. You can configure a guitar. I don't know if you guys have done it, but the SIR configurator, on their website is pretty cool for kind of getting an exact idea what you want. And, there's a spec sheet that gets done for every guitar. And then they'll generally kind of, like if I order a guitar, they'll generally send me the spec sheet and have me go through it, make sure everything's right, from the radius to the fret size to is it a side jack? Is it a top mounted jack? What color's the pick guard? What color's the logo? Any kind of options, it's all there. So, and that would be something that I'm sure Humbucker or, Wildwood or those stores do all the time, and then it's just waiting. It's just waiting game after that. Yeah. Peter says, I think this is with regards to the treble bleeds. I haven't really tried the different options. I should look into it. Yeah, you have to kind of try the, I just feel like SIR figured it out with the whatever they use, and it's great. So I can remember when I was a kid in the 80s that trying it, and it was just a cap. And it always sounded really bright when you rolled down, kind of super sparkle, but it seemed like low end was lacking. So when you do the cap resistor thing and a certain value, it keeps it even all the way down. I don't know how, but it does. And it's cool. So Mark T says, I just ordered a SIR Eclipse, excited to try it out. That's the 2-channel distortion pedal with full EQ on each channel. It's kind of like having 2 amp style distortions that are fully tweakable in one pedal. Yeah. John Deshane says, I've got treble bleeds on both my SIRs. They're fantastic. Had them on other guitars, not so much. SIR has it sorted. Yeah, whatever the values they choose is just really good. That's John. He just solves problems with things, fixes things, and that's kind of one of his specialties. Is taking things that maybe, I mean, he innovates for sure, but he also takes things that were never right, and then fixes them and makes them so they're right. He's always trying to push it, that way. So, when we think about his guitars with, modern radius, compound radiuses, and no string trees, and the different neck heels and stuff, a little more sculpted, and always sort of trying to push forward with those classic designs, but make them better. Pretty cool. And then he just, the modern was completely original design, that guitar. So things like that, he's also innovates. Travis says, I know you appreciate good vintage amps, but are you big on any vintage guitars? Well, I have a few. I have my old 335 here. I have an old Strat. I have an old Telly. they're fantastic. You know, they've got a certain thing. So it's just a unique, uh, you know, tone to all those guitars, and they always get comments when I play the vintage stuff in videos. People seem to always like them. 335 has its own fan base, that guitar. Every time I bust that thing out, it's really low whine. My 335 is like same output as my Strat, basically. You know, the pickup's like 7.3K or something. It's a early 60s patent number, and you know, sounds cool. So if you're talking about the Gibson L5 solid state amp, yeah, BB King rocked them. I remember. A walnut elite Strat had the preamp mid boost. Yep. Ty had the standard. I mean, his was red, I think, the main one that he used to play, candy red, sort of, and it had that same pickup system in it. You know, as the walnut ones you're talking about. I know the walnut ones were supposed to be super deluxe, and then they made sort of a standard version of it, and that was like the one Ty had. I believe it was like a black pickguard, red body, and kind of I think it was a maple neck. Maybe it was a rosewood board. Can't remember exactly. But yeah, I think it was a rosewood board, his main one. And that's the guitar he played on Gretchen and everything. And let's try and get Ty on Tone Talk. You know, Ty, I did an interview with Ty. You can watch it. I did it years ago. It's on my YouTube. Just search Ty Tabor, Pete Thorn, and pop up. And he was really gracious with his time and stuff. I want to go back and watch it again because it was during the pandemic, I think, actually. Just 4 years ago now or something. It was a 2020 interview, I think. And he was so cool. It's just a, you know, super nice, soft-spoken, great dude. That he's big influence on me. His phrasing, and you know, if I could just play like that, that's all I'd ever want to do. You know, he's so. If you watch him play and he takes a solo live, people are just like, oh yeah, he's like a, you know, he takes people on a ride with his lead playing. He's so melodic and confident too. He's got a real, you know, although he's very, very sweet. When you see him on stage, he's very confident, you know, and he's got this, like, he's like feeling it right in the zone all the time. It's like, I don't know. It's cool. If you've seen him live, you know what I'm talking about. The new Marshall 50-watt Plexi type amps from Sir and Friedman. Which of the two do you prefer? I mean, they're both great. It's not the answer you want to hear, but they're both really good. You know, you could probably dial them both to be very, very similar sounding. The Sir has a couple different features with the you know, the switchable mid and switchable fat cap and stuff, and the Friedman's got the switchable brights. That Sir has a bright on one side, Friedman has bright on both sides. You know, what else differences? The master volume on the Friedman is on the front as opposed to on the back. John likes to put them on the back. Dave's like, feels good about it on the front. So whatever, you know, they're very close. You got to kind of play them side by side. It's like saying, should I drive a Camaro or a Mustang? You know, they're both good rides. They're going to get you from A to B and similar, you know? So yeah. What single coils for great Strat, SRV, Mark Knopfler somewhere? Well, that's two different sounds to me. The Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, I mean, probably we're colored because he used to use you know, our not the tones colored, but our memory is, he used to use a tube screamer a lot. So it's like there's always that added greasy mids thing. But when I think of Stevie Ray Vaughan, I think of a higher output kind of thing, whereas Knopfler, I think of a lower output kind of thing with a little less mids and a little more cluck in the in-between positions, you know. For all we know, Mark Strat had hotter pickups than Stevie Ray Vaughan's, you know. It's like there's so many other factors, right? With compressors and you know, the amp choice and everything. So, but I really like I'm very happy with the Serve B63s. I think they sound great. Originally started life as the Landau Classic, I think. It's just a great 60s sounding pickup, and I've got them in my guitars, and I'm very happy with them. They sound really cool. So, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I talked to Guitar Sanctuary. Appears Sir no longer gives ETAs on orders. I guess, like you said, 12 to 18 is a good estimate. Yeah, I thought they did do that. I might be wrong, but I was last told that if the dealer knows, you know, when they're going to get things. But it's not how I understand it. But I could be wrong. I'm not the expert. So you might send an email to customer service at Sir, cs@sir.com. and just say, "Hey guys, just wondering, for, like a broad kind of, can you give me any kind of," they might say no, or they might say, yeah, you know. I don't know if you've got an order number or an invoice or something that you could give them so they can reference and figure it out, but or not figure it out and not tell you. I'm just not sure if that's a policy that they're, I don't really know. So it's a question. It's a question for them, though. I would say if the dealer's giving you that story, then if you want to maybe just make sure that that's the case, call the or send an email, excuse me, to customer service, cs@sir.com. Yeah. Have you ever played the Sir? Oh, Charvel Guthrie Govan signature. I played the Sir one. Recently got the Roasted Ash. Fantastic, really versatile. I have not. Don't know anything about that guitar, to be honest. Haven't really seen them. I saw in Japan. I saw one. I remember in a store, but I didn't pick it up. But that was it. That's the only place I did see them. Yeah, Cocoa Boost for leads with the SL68 or something else. Lots of things. I mean, try a Klon style boost, like an Archer. Try a yeah, Cocoa, great for sure. This killer, this thing. Get one of these. The Boss booster preamp, really cool. The Cocoa will give you the most sort of, well, also a Klon because they've got this mid hump thing, but the Cocoa will give you a definite like mid focused. This is a bit more probably like a broad boost, but with color. But it's great. Sounds really good in front of a plexi. So, oh, that's interesting. Paul's asking about that Ty Tabor's Zion guitar. No, I remember when he started using those, and that would have been the mid to late 90s, mid 90s. The Zion. I remember the guy that owned Zion guitars. They were a nice. This is pre-Sir, it was like Zion guitars. They were made in somewhere in the South, I think. And the guy made really, really nice guitars, kind of similar to Anderson's, and and he was a very, very nice guy. I remember meeting him at the NAMM show and stuff. And then he I think he had some health issues, and all of a sudden you just kind of didn't see the Zion guitars anymore. But I remember really liking the owner, and he was cool, and that he made a Ty Tabor, the first sort of Ty Tabor signature, and then Ty had a signature with Yamaha for a little bit. Remember that? But the guitar that Ty used on all the early King's X, I mean, at least first 4 albums, I think almost exclusively, was the Fender Elite Strat with the preamp in it. So a unique guitar. Later on, you'd see him with Les Pauls and all kinds of guitars that didn't have the preamp thing in it, but that early tone, that combination of that weird solid state amp with the boost in front, and then he used a MIDI Verb 2 on like a certain preset, because there was no tweakable parameters on a MIDI Verb. It was just like reverbs, choruses, a bunch of presets, and he used a certain chorus preset, I think. And he just had a really, really distinct tone that was so cool, So some may not call the Ibanez Destroyer vintage. I mean, it's totally vintage. I think anything, the way Vintage Guitar Magazine defines it, or like, I think that it's like beyond this. If you get back before a certain date, it's vintage. Might be 1990 at this point or something, but I don't know when it is technically, but you can consider, I mean, I think Ibanez's are vintage. I think 80s Ibanez's are vintage at this point, So, if something's over 30 years old, it's pretty vintage, I would say. Yeah. Victor's got a bunch of question marks and saying the Germino amps are closer to original Marshall and Fender than what? Are you saying than something else I was talking about? I'm just not sure. Germino is definitely, I mean, his are very, very, yeah, if you want to talk about every single aspect being, super close to the way the old, from the construction to I would say that's not a false statement. They're very, he tends to, there's no PC boards, I don't think. I mean, he's very like, that's kind of how it is. Is it better? It's great. I don't know about better, there's a lot, most of the guys I know that make amps these days, and if they can do it and do it right, agree that a good PC board, because not all are created equal, but a good PC board style amp can be more consistent, more reliable, every bit as good sounding. Absolutely no reason that a circuit board amp can't sound exactly the same, if done right, and be even more reliable and easier to build, and less variance between them, than a point-to-point design. I mean, when you can design a board right, and it's real tough and strong, and all the traces and everything's exactly the same and repeatable, there's less variance, I think, between and less room for human error and cold solder joints or issues that you find with the hand wired. So you know all that. Didn't SRV use Texas Specials? Well, I mean, he had original pickups in his old guitar, the main one that he used. I mean, so he had a signature model Fender, one of the early, when they came out, the signature model. Did that guitar even come out before he passed away? I don't think so. I think it was something we saw in the 90s, wasn't it? The Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat. But anyways, it had Texas Specials in it, and I always remember them as being kind of a greasy mids, kind of hotter single coil. I don't know the specs or anything, but so I don't know if Stevie Ray Vaughan ever actually used Texas Specials, or if that was just something that was created later. Can't remember the exact timeline. I want to say those guitars came out early 90s after Stevie's untimely passing, but I could be wrong. Maybe they were out in 89, or I don't think so, though. Were they? Maybe somebody out there has got an angle on that. I don't remember them being out in the 80s. Have you tried Satriani's Van Halen-esque boutique amp? I have not. I've tried some third power amps before, but I haven't, this particular one. I see they're putting up some videos and stuff, rehearsal videos, from the rehearsal place that they're getting ready for tour. Saw a few of those this week. Looks like they're going to have some fun. I thought, one thing I noticed from the videos, I thought Jason Bonham's kit sounded really good. Like the tuning of his drums was sounded like, oh yeah, that's the kind of Van Halen tuning. It sounds good. Or Bonham-y, I mean, Van Halen's got its own thing, but it just sounded right to me because some of the videos were like right from sort of Michael Anthony's perspective and right beside the kit. I thought, ooh, the drums sound good. Like the tuning, it was really cool. So anyway, something I noticed just in the Instagram videos. When using UA aux with speaker sim option, I'm assuming matching ohms is not a concern. And yes, it is a shuffle. That's a reference to an Instagram post this week. Kind of a little inside joke there. But when using UA aux with speaker sim option, well, you want to match the amp. I'm not sure exactly your question, but you definitely want to match the aux to whatever your amp is. So if your amp set for 8 ohms, set the aux for 8 ohms. Yeah, that'd be my recommendation. Important note on Sir Custom Orders, the time frame is until build start. So if it's 12 to 18 months, then it's another 3+ months for the build. That is per Sir customer service to me. Interesting. My last build was a total of 22 months. That's a fairly long one. I don't know if I think they're a little faster than that right now, but I don't know for sure. It's like I say, it's quality problems. They've got only so many people they're building and stuff, and there's a high demand. So you want to get something exactly the way you want in a custom order, and I guess you just got to wait, but it'll be worth it. I kind of like that. I mean, I sort of like the concept of like, if you want to get something, you can go out and buy it, or you've already got guitars to play. But I like the concept of like, I waited once for a set of pickups for 2 years or 3 years, those Timbuckers that this guy was making. And now I lost them. They disappeared on tour. Because I was going through a phase in a Les Paul where I was pulling pickups in and out and stuff. And it's one set of pickups that I waited for 2 or 3 years just vanished into the ether. I don't know where the hell they are. They might be somewhere in a box, like in this building, but I haven't been able to find them. But anyways, I liked the wait, and then it finally coming up. Like, oh, here's I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's like, if everything's easy to get, it doesn't feel like special. Is that silly? I just remember being a kid and saving up for guitars and things, and or like layaway, right? Where one day, 8 months from now, you're gonna be able to get it because you paid it monthly. You can finally take it home like that. It's like you're working towards something. I don't know. I kind of like that, for something that's special and like a custom order. Um, Steve saying Wildwood would never give me an expected date for my PTHSS. Love the red PTHSS. Thanks. Yeah. I love mine too. I'm a big sucker for red guitars, so love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Awesome shirt. Thanks. My Taylor Hawkins shirt. Oh man. Okay, what else we got here? What kind of budget audio interface for Windows would you recommend? I think I would go UA. I mean, that's they've got Windows compatibility now and stuff for sure. So I would find something from them. I've had nothing but good success with them. Nothing but good things to say. They've got their newer kind of Spark interfaces, I think they're called, that are less expensive. So you could look at those. Those probably work with, I'm not 100% sure that all their interfaces work with Windows, but I know they've, finally got the Windows compatibility thing going on at least some of them, if not all of them. But check them out. Anyone ever try Serve V54 Strat pickups? I haven't, actually. It's one I've never tried. The singles I've tried, the V60 LPs and V63s. Those have been what I've stuck with because they've just worked. And back in the day, it was at Landau Standards. This guitar originally had Landau Standards in it. I replaced them with V63 LPs. And now the pickup that I actually use in my signature guitars is actually what started as the Landau Classic. It was a little bit less hot than a Landau Standard, I think. I think that's the deal. I could have that backwards. Maybe it was more hot, but I think it was less hot. And they renamed it V63. So I've been going about an hour and 30, and I'm going to split in about 5 minutes. The main reason being, well, number one, I got to get some work done, but the other reason being, I've really got to go to the bathroom. So nature calls. So I'm going to hang another few minutes here until I'm ready to explode, and then I'll sign off quickly, probably. Don't want any accidents. Pitbull in San Diego has a large inventory of Suhr guitars. Pitbull's a great store. I did a clinic for them. They're down in just kind of north of San Diego, I think. Really good shop. So check them out if you're in California. Yep. Oh, that's cool. Vincent saw Stevie Ray Vaughan and Beck at Madison Square Garden. Unbelievable performance by both. That's awesome. That tour I almost feel like is underrated. Like, amazing, right? See Stevie Ray Vaughan and Jeff Beck at the same show, and then they jam together. Pretty cool. Adam's asking if I'm going to share my Tonex captures. Yes, I am eventually here. Yeah. UA Volt interfaces are fine with Windows, says Mr. Jones. The Apollo interfaces have had Apollo interfaces have had issues with Windows. Really? I don't know. I mean, I would think they've got that. It's just probably software things that they get sorted. But the Volt is it's not called Spark. It's called Volt, right? Or maybe there's a Spark and a Volt. I can't remember. All these products. But anyways, yeah, the Volt interfaces are kind of the UA, the less expensive line. And you're saying those work great with Windows. And the question was for a budget one. So maybe that's right there as the right answer. That's the way I would go. Any change of your PT1 Internet amp getting modeled in the fractal? Sir would have to share the schematics. Oh, I think you're saying any chance. I don't know. They've got Badgers in there and stuff. I don't know that they ever, whether they'll do a PT. I mean, I would say just use a Friedman, and it's fairly close modded, Marshall architecture with gain stage kind of design. One of the BEs get you pretty much in the ballpark, I would say. I've been on a 6-year wait list for a King of Tone pedal. At what point is a wait list too long? That's pretty long, I would say. Thoughts on Orville guitars? Really cool Japanese-made Gibsons, that were only available domestically. They had Gibson-style headstocks. Always liked, they're just cool. I remember the first one I saw was a John Sykes Orville, I think. In Japan in the 90s. I was like, oh, that's cool. And, it was all with the chrome and everything on it. It was really neat. So Mark T says, thanks for the live stream today. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ben says he's ended streams for the same reason. You've ended a stream so you can go start another one, so to speak. Get it? Braxall says, I appreciate everyone helping with the SAT timeline for builds. Still waiting on my Fiat Cyclops. Go to Taylor Guitars for the tour and then hit Pitbull. That's a good idea. Taylor's a beautiful facility. And they're, yeah, I think they are pretty close. That's right. To Pitbull. Rick says he saw SRV many times. That's awesome. I saw him once, like around Couldn't Stand the Weather, I think, and it was amazing. I was right against the stage, right in front of him. I was a little kid. I was probably 11 or 12, and yeah, right up against the stage, and he even spoke to us at one point. It was so cool. I'll never forget it. As a kid, you know, like general admission, I got there really early, got inside, got right up to the stage, and waited for probably like, you know, an hour for the show or whatever once doors opened, and then he came out, and I was right in front of his amps for the whole show in basically like a big club. It was awesome. Yep. Isn't the Spark an amp? Spark is an amp. I thought it was an interface too, but yeah, you might be right. That's somebody, I saw a comment a while ago, and I'm sorry I didn't answer it. Leon Todd is a guest sometime. He's a Pete Thorn fan. Thanks for saying that, Earl. Yeah, please say hi to Leon for me. And I like what he does as well. Does great work on the interwebs. And maybe we can do a live stream together one of these days, for sure. Yeah. Can you give me some insight into how a regular person can get access to all the expensive guitar equipment in the world? I mean, the reality is, it's like, I think everybody's got more of an idea and more access than we ever have because of the internet. You can kind of hear things and hear when you mean access, like hands-on, you know, that's another story. But I remember a lot of this stuff used to be mystery to me in the 80s, and what it actually sounded like, and what it, you know, it was like impossible. Now I can at least go get an idea. So if I'm putting a rig or pedal board together, I kind of know what I'm getting into before I buy things, you know. So been toying with putting thornbuckers into a guitar that worse less than a set of been toying with putting thornbuckers into a guitar that worse less than a set of thornbuckers. I don't get it. Sorry, I don't understand. I know this. I have this problem too with spell correct, and you know it doesn't work out. And I send a message, and then I'm like, "That's not what I was trying to say." But I'm sorry, I don't understand. Well, okay, we've reached that time where I've got to run to the bathroom. So everybody have a great week. Thanks for hanging, and thanks for, you know, tuning in to the special time live stream. I know it was an odd time on Saturday, but won't be anything going on tomorrow for Sunday Live. But next week I'll be back on Sunday. I think it's the 9th, 8th or 9th, 9th, I think. Usual time, usual place, around 11:45 a.m., probably a little bit later, depending on what I'm doing with the cat that morning. But yeah. Same time, same place, same channel. Thanks for tuning in. Love y'all. Thanks for your super chats. Thanks for your support. Be nice to one another. Have an awesome week. Take care.